Thank you for joining us today. We're excited you're here to meet the author of today's book. Welcome to Digital Book Nooks, Meet the Author Show, where you can discover your next great book. With your host, D.G. Thomas. Enjoy the show.
Hi, and welcome to the Meet the Author Show. If you're a fan of riveting stories about espionage, intrigue, and international terrorism, you are in for a treat today. So today we're diving into a captivating book and getting to know the mind behind it. I'm thrilled to welcome our guest, Norman Finn, who will share insights in his latest work, A Cause for All. So Norman Finn grew up in the domestic industry and worked in Florence, Italy. He became corporate vice president of product development for U.S. Shoe in 1976 and helped to take the company to $2.7 billion. This led to his developing and pioneering better footwear in Asia. In 1987, he started Am Asia International, developing major brands with his son and daughter-in-law. Norman lives in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts with his wife, and their grandson Taylor is their pride and joy. Please help me welcome today Norman Finn. Welcome, Norman.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you here. And you know what? Traveling and footwear. Now, I tell you, that's a great combination. So when I read that in your bio, I was like, jealous. I should have went into that.
Yeah, it's a footwear and apparel. And
yes, it's even better.
I've traveled the world too many times.
Oh, that's amazing. And then to take that and turn it into a writing career for a second act, that's awesome. So
yeah, well, I retired and I was looking for something to do.
Yeah.
And we would go out to dinner with friends and I would relate stories, and they finally once said, "Why don't you write a book about them?"
Exactly.
So I kind of put fantasy together with a little truth, and
yes.
And there they were.
That's awesome. We're going to talk about that today. So to kick things off, could you give our listeners a brief overview of A Cause for All, and what's the core story and what can readers expect when they dive into your book?
Well, the core story is this young man becomes involved in politics and in going to Israel for the first time, and he has this unique background of speaking two dialects of Arabic, and he has this heritage of his dad being killed by the Nazis, and he becomes involved with the Mossad, and they use his abilities to protect the state of Israel. And he has all of these kinds of adventures that are really interesting. And I've tried to weave it around history so that it kind of coincides with history. It's about the 6-Day War, or it's about the Yom Kippur War. Or about the international conflict that existed throughout the world because of this that happened in the Middle East. So that's really the essence of the book.
Okay, sounds so interesting. So, so every book has its genesis, its spark that ignites the desire to write it. So what inspired you to create A Cause for All? Was there a particular moment or an insight that propelled you to start this project?
Well, I originally wrote a memoir called Life of the Shoe. And then I said, I wanted to write something else. And as I said, I tried to put fact with fantasy and with what I knew and of all the places that I've been. And I tried to put all of this together and to write a book about it.
Yeah.
And that's how it started.
Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about your protagonist, Michael Jansen. So he's a fascinating character. So can you share with us whether Michael is based on any real life figures or events, or
Well,
how did you go about crafting his character?
Well, when I was thinking of writing the book, I didn't want to write a book about an ex-CIA kind of agent.
Right.
I wanted to write a book about somebody that wasn't really in that kind of business, that
Mm,
happened to get into that business.
yeah.
So I used my own experiences
Oh,
as a fashion person to develop this character that's a little like me in a sense,
yeah. Cool.
and becomes involved in all of these other things.
Okay. Well, that's awesome that you were
So
able to.
there's really a story within a story.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. You're able to take parts of your own personality and put it into
Right, right.
the character. I like that. So, in your book, in the beginning, you mentioned that the research for your book was extensive and that you focused on historical events in the Middle East. So, can you describe how you balanced the historical accuracy with the creative freedom that needed to develop your fictional characters, and especially
Well,
crafting dialogues when we talk about like historical
well,
figures?
actually, that's what I did. I first of all wanted to set up the chronological and the actual facts that
Yes.
went on, and then weave the character into the situation.
Mhm.
In other words, I put words in NASA's mouth,
Yes.
or
Yes.
I did those kind of things. But it's actually historically accurate.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it is challenging. So I've written children's books, and the children in my books go back in the past. Okay. So they go back to like the 50s. So just making sure you take those elements that you have in the area. In my case, it's in like the deep South in the United States in the 50s. And having that mixture of accuracy, but still the fictitious part, just blending those. It can be challenging. Did
But
you
what
find it
made
challenging?
it kind of a little simpler
Yeah.
was that I've been to all of these places.
Okay. Yeah.
So I had a mental image of what I was writing about some of these places,
Right.
and I tried to weave it all in. In
Okay.
fact, I made sure I wove it in.
Yeah. So I guess that being there really kind of helped you
Oh,
envision.
there's no question about it that
Yeah,
it's much easier to write about something you know.
definitely, definitely. Okay. So so travel in your career and then also in your book seems to have played a significant role in shaping the narrative of your book. So could you share more? You talked about a trip to Egypt and how specific locations may have influenced some of the settings in your book and your story. And are there any particular experiences during these visits that shaped or inspired scenes or character developments in the book?
Well, I actually went to Egypt because the Egyptian government invited me. They wanted me to build a shoe factory in outside of Cairo. So
Mm,
I spent a couple of weeks there, and really saw what the country was really about. Well, not the whole country, but saw the area around Cairo and really understood what was there. And I also got a sense of the political situation and the whole thing. I had to, because I was either going to make a factory or not. Eventually, I decided not to do it,
mm,
but I did have a good experience level of what the country was about.
right. Okay. So let's talk about the history a little bit more. So you expressed a deep fascination with the history of the period that's covered in your book. How do you think understanding this historical context enhances the reader's experience of your story? And what
Well,
do
I think they have to fit together.
um,
You can tell a story, uh, but it has a little more meaning if you can actually say, that really happened.
right,
And
right.
we're weaving it around actual fact. And I think that's what enhances the story. The story is interesting, but I think it's more interesting when you know the background.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. Just having that knowledge of the background and the history of it, especially when it's comes from real events, does make it more impactful for the reader as well. So, what do you hope that your readers take away from the blend of factual history and fiction in your work?
Well, first of all, I want them to enjoy the book,
Yeah,
you know, but I also want them to understand what really happened, because a lot of people don't know what really happened.
sure.
But especially in this book, in A Cause for All, there is so much going on in the world that people don't even realize. I don't think many people realize that the U.S. and the Soviet Union were at DEFCON 3
No,
over the Middle East.
wow, no, I don't think so either. You're
You
right.
know, so that's what those are the kind of things that I would like people to take away from the book. Never mind enjoying the story. In fact, I'm actually writing the sequel to this book right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and um, I've even gone into more depth about what was behind all of these things that was going on. Uh, but you know, you could write volumes about this period.
Mhm.
There's so much information,
True.
and it was difficult to decide what should be in the book.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's
Yeah.
so much information to share about it. I understand that. So speaking, you talked just a little bit just now about writing a sequel, just looking beyond A Cause for All. What are some of your broader goals as an author? And are there any other new projects in the pipeline that your fans
Well,
can?
as I said, I'm writing the sequel, but
Yeah.
I have a number of interests. I'm actually an artist. I paint every day, and I write in the afternoon. I paint in the morning, and I write in the afternoon. And I show in a gallery in Boston, in a better gallery in Boston. So I have a number of interests,
Yeah.
and but writing is fun. It's hard work, but it's fun.
Yeah. It sounds like you're staying pretty busy, and between the art and the writing, very creative. That's awesome. Let me show our listeners the book again and tell everybody where they can get the book.
Sure.
So this is the book cover. It's A Cause for All. It's available at Amazon.com. I just want to thank you, Norman, so much for joining us today. That's the last of the questions that I have, but it's such an interesting story and
Well,
topic. And
it's a pleasure to talk to you.
it's a pleasure to talk to you too.
Take care.
Take care. So hold on,
Okay.
I'm going to show the book one more time and then thank our audience.
Okay.
Once again, it's A Cause for All, available at Amazon.com. All right. Thank you all for tuning in to today's episode. You can find the book once again on Amazon. And don't forget to check out the Digital Book Nook blog for the full interview with Norman. He gives more details about his writing journey and experience that you don't want to miss. We appreciate your support, and goodbye.